Well, hello and welcome to our very first Armoring Up podcast. My name is Matt,
I'm Tim.
I'm Scott.
and we are glad that you're here. Um, Little disclosure: we are not professionals. We are not pastors per se. You can call us street pastors, maybe, but I don't have that jacket yet. But anyways, I this podcast is really just three guys that are trying to navigate life and trying to be better kingdom men. This kind of started from a book. My stepson read a copy of Tony Evans' Kingdom Man, and he was it changed his life in many ways that he got me a copy. I read it. I couldn't put the book down. It was amazing. And then I introduced the book to these two, and we decided we would start a men's group to be able to just discuss manly things. I feel like oftentimes we don't have that opportunity to really dig deep into what it's like to be or strive to be a kingdom man. And after sitting in a local Panera and just having some great fellowship, I thought we should just record this.
Right? Yeah.
We should just
Always
record this
had
and
some
do a
good
podcast,
conversations.
right? Why not? Everyone else does a
Absolutely.
podcast, so
And the coffee was great.
it was. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Duncan. This episode sponsored by Duncan.
I was thinking we got a couple sponsors there now.
Right, right. So, anyways,
I was trying to
I
remember what
pitched
the other
the
sponsor
idea
was. We're getting that up.
to these guys. They were on board. We never thought we would do it. Really, it was just one of those things, and so we just started pushing the rock forward. So here we are. This is our first podcast. We're glad that you're here. We're glad that you're watching, and this is our first one. So we hope you come back. But anyways, that's kind of the reasoning behind. That was my motivation to do this. But let's hear from you guys.
All right. It's something I never thought I didn't see myself doing. But and Matt came to me and asked me, and I said, why not? So it's just a chance to show the world, our friends, people, whoever's interested in watching that, we're just three normal guys. And we try to do the best we can, uh, live according to God's rules or not rules, but just have that relationship with God and please Him and show the world. But we're not perfect; we make mistakes. But we try to do the best we can.
And just have real conversation about it. Yeah.
Yeah. When Matt told me about the book the very first time, I was like, oh, yeah, I got to read this. But excuse me. So when I think of a kingdom man, for me, the purpose behind it, first of all, I get to be with two great friends, and we do this. And excuse me. No, you can't hear me. All right, there we go. But it makes me think about the world the way it is today, about truth. You think of God's characteristics, and you see holiness, just God, a loving God, but He's also a God of truth. And there's so much untruth in the world today.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not blaming anybody anywhere. It's just the world is really in a place where we just have no truth. So when I think of a kingdom man, I think of, you have a king and you follow that king. So I'm excited about this to follow my God.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good point because how the way God created men, that's our king we're supposed to follow. We're supposed to emulate that, right? As a kingdom man. And there's that trickle down effect to where then, our wives then look up to us as kings. And they are our queens. So I'm not putting them on a lower level in the sense of importance, but just that's how God structured it. And then there's that whole trickle down effect to the family, the kids and grandkids and so forth. And so yeah, it's a good point. We have a king that we have to be accountable to and be aligned with. And I do feel like that has been degraded over a period of time in just society in general.
And the thing is, there's so much joy in it too.
There
You know,
is.
Oh,
if you
absolutely.
live according to God, you have a joyous heart. Life is somehow better.
I was going to say that it gets not easier, but
No, it's not always
better.
easy still, but
Yeah, a lot of people think, oh, it's going to be easy, is what you think. No,
no.
it's not. So we live in America. In America, we have a democracy, and fairness is the rule. Everybody wants fairness, and in a kingdom, it doesn't flow like that at all. So we don't really have the understanding what a kingdom is. The kingdom, the king has absolute rule, whether you agree with what he says or not. He has absolute rule. There's no recourse in that. Thank God, our King is a good God.
I was gonna say, dang, that's deep, Scott.
That's
good.
But it's like we just really
Yeah,
that's
that's a
where my
very
heart
good point.
is. So when he brought this up to me, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm in.
Okay. All right. I like that. So yeah, I feel I'm gonna just throw a question out there to you guys. What do you think? How do you feel society? Well, let's start with how do you think society tries to force an identity on men today?
I love it.
Well, we're just. Let's think that one through a little bit.
Okay.
All right, I'll jump in there.
Go ahead.
I'll jump in there.
I mean, there's all kinds of ways of looking at that question. So
Okay.
Okay.
Let's dissect it.
Yeah, for me, when I see this identity placed on men today, men are afraid to be men. They're being attacked from every corner.
Can't cry.
I
Can't
don't
show
see.
emotion.
I don't see our podcast as a way for
Big
men
boys don't cry.
speaking up against society. That's not my purpose in this. What?
I said, big boys don't cry.
No, they do. Yeah, they do. I cry all the time. That's my wife. She'll sit there, we're watching a movie, and she'll look at me, and she'll just be like, she knows. She'll start looking over her shoulder because she knows I'm about to bawl. But so big boys do cry, man. Even though I'm kind of a small big boy, but that's
But not in baseball.
not in
No,
baseball.
no
crying
crying in
Probably true.
baseball.
No, no
Yeah.
That's
crying.
probably true. But the world, men today, it's not like when I was a boy. Today a man's afraid to show any kind of masculinity, or they'll be called toxic. Or there's just so many ways where men are being canceled out in society today, and that's really hard to accept.
I agree. I go down this road every time we talk, and it's something I've been passionate about because what I see is men being emasculated. I think society's trying to do that. I believe it's Satan that's working in it. So I won't say like just generally people are like trying to knock men down a peg or whatever it is. I believe Satan's working, and I think he's working overtime, which is one of the
Absolutely.
passions I have for this vodcast is the youth. I think he's attacking the youth, confusing them in their identity as God created them to be. And I know that today that's a very touchy subject, and I can only imagine what some may think by me making that comment. But at the end of the day, we have to live by God's kingdom, and He created men to be men, created women to be women, and we all have very important roles as men and women, and hope we teach that to our younger generation. Right?
Absolutely.
Tim and I were talking earlier. I was struggling with a couple of things, and I was kind of out of alignment with God, right? And Tony Evans does a great job kind of describing this visual is I need to be aligned with God. I have to report to God. I have to be accountable to God. And when I get out of that alignment, I'm leaving a gap for Satan to kind of come in and disrupt that. And what happens is then my wife, Stacy, she gets out of alignment with me because she's maybe just trying to follow what I'm doing, but then it just creates that conflict. But at the end of the day, God created that she respects my role as the leader of the household. I respect her role as the woman of the household to love and support. That's a two-way street, obviously. Um, but I think I would hope to think that Satan struggled with that. So he's like, oh, let's just go to the weakest, right? Let's go after the lost sheep, right? The one,
Yeah.
and he's going after the younger generation. And now I think there's this ripple effect that, well, we as men, we just have to accept that's the way it is. And I feel like that's where, as kingdom men, we have to plant our flag and say, no, this is not.
Absolutely.
It may sound a bit harsh. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, and we also, I think we need as men we need Tim to tell his version of.
Yes, a man. Come on, Tim. What's your
How some of today's men would not have lasted on Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah.
yes?
Yeah. Yeah, there's today's society. I mean, you want to be masculine, but yet you want to be strong enough to live in the horse and buggy days. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You watch
Yeah.
Little House on the Prairie. I see a lot of people that just I don't think they would have lasted very long, men and women. You know.
I mean, today.
And yeah,
Well, I
today's.
think he was a great example, though. You're absolutely right.
And I'm
'cause he
not
was-
complaining because I'd rather live today than
Right.
back in those
Yeah.
days.
No.
Life was rough.
I like being able to use the toilet
Me too.
in the house.
Yeah, yeah, in the house.
I don't know how we got on that subject, but that's great.
No, I agree because I think I wasn't a huge fan of the show. Can't say I sat there and watched it, but I have watched Little House on the Prairie. I have, but he was a good example of that manly
And
man.
he was a godly man too.
He was a
He read
godly
the
man,
Bible
and I mean, the way he took care of his family.
right.
He was a great example. And so remember we were talking earlier tonight about one of the places that Stacy and I serve is Southside Mission, and we had an opportunity to talk to some people from Northwoods about what that's going to look like moving forward, and did a little interview. And I tell you, it's amazing because really, it's a snapshot of what I feel like the broken home. And I know Scott, you're going to chime in on here, and I'm glad. But what we see is the norm is broken homes. A child doesn't know who his daddy is, or doesn't know who his mommy is, or I've seen so many kids are being raised by their grandparents. Now, yeah, I'm not taking away them individually. So if it's a single mom taking care of a kid, God bless her, more power to her. But it's just broken. The
Absolutely.
family is just broken. And I can't remember who we were talking about that, but Tim, you also chimed in on that because sometimes it's some of the things that us men were chasing. So I'll let Scott go on when you were talking about. You had
Yeah,
some good points on that earlier.
So what Matt was just saying is so true. So we have a society now. It used to be we had a single family home. It was almost always a woman in a single family parent home. But today it's not uncommon to have a single parent home with the male leading the home. And so the problem is that it isn't that it's a man or a woman that are raising their children. It is even when a man's raising his child or his children, he can't replace the mother. He cannot be that mother for them. He can do his best, and he can get by, and he can do very well, but it's still not the same. So the broken home is a big problem in society today. Our young youth, they don't know which way to go. I see all the time. As a youth pastor, we would see young people that had no leadership in their lives. They love God. That's where they're turning to. Thank God for that. Not all of them are doing that. But they have no one to really guide them. Once they leave the church, they're on their own. So I see a bunch of men too in the church. They come to church. I'm not saying they don't get busy outside of church, but there really seems to be, as we get older, afraid to stand up and to lead. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to do that, encourage people through our podcast to be able to men to stand up and lead.
Even unbroken homes, the normal family, mom, dad, brother, sisters, and that. But mom and dad, you got that dual income family. Everybody has to work to
Right.
make ends meet. It's
Which is why more important we have to be kingdom men
yeah,
to
Absolutely.
hold to be
Yeah.
that glue to bring it together. So we're wrapping up on our time for our first podcast. We thank you for stopping in and watching. We hope if you like it, you'll like and subscribe
Yeah.
and share. And we definitely welcome feedback. Again, we're not professionals. We're just three guys that want to just spread the love of Jesus and help build up men to be men.
Yep.
So thank you
Amen.
very
Amen.
much,
Yeah.
and looking
Thanks for
forward
listening.
to seeing you in a week or so. Thank you very much, and have a good day.